In the 1970s, for people the world over, French fashion still meant the haute couture of Yves Saint Laurent and Hubert de Givenchy. But in the 1980s, a new generation of designers was to change all that.
How often do fashions change? Every 10 years?
Given the increased pace of history, given the increased pace of consumerism, related to the type of society in which we live, given all sorts of difficulties that our society is experiencing, economic, political, and moral, it's possible that changes will occur in fashion more rapidly, perhaps every 10 years, perhaps every 5.
But that's a good thing.
If fashion stopped changing, life would be no more.
At the dawn of the 1980s, a wave of pop crashed into the fashion world. The young French designers of the time sparked off a previously unexperienced infatuation. Fashion became the fashion, and the whole world was watching Paris. 4 men with very different characters embody this carefree period of freedom and success.
Montana was so moving, so genuine, like a very shy child. I liked Montana's character. I really liked the guy. I still like him, even the way he is now.
I met Claude Montana one day. He was a young Adonis. He hadn't started designing clothes at the time. He was poured into a very tight pair of jeans. He was rather good-looking, with blonde hair, lots of blonde hair. I remembered him. I took him for a gigolo.
This is to the interview.
I used to spend a lot of time in Saint-Germain-des-Prés, where I met John Voight, who was the artistic director at McDouglas. He asked me to work with him, and I learned to design clothes with him under his name.
He took you under his wing?
Absolutely. I learned about pattern cutting, designing, and overseeing the making of what I had sketched.
Next week, we'll mark the start of the women's ready-to-wear collection for winter 1979-1980. Although spring has not yet graced us with its presence, Jean-Claude Narcy gives us a preview of next winter's fashion, a disconcerting style. I hope you'll be brave enough to be seen out in it.
Still sporty, preferably in leather because I love leather. The shoulders are still accentuated, the body is larger, and I've put more focus on color. I've tried to treat it differently this season. I've toned it down because it's winter.
A new generation of dressmaker is here, characterized by audacity and humor. The style has made its mark in a difficult industry, winning a major position on the market. The designer's average age is between 25 and 35, and they have a pressing need to produce creativity and modernity, reflecting the times. Among the clan of newcomers is Thierry Mugler, one of the best-loved and most hated, whose fashion shows can provoke mass hysteria. He's better known abroad than in France. He makes 70% of his turnover in Japan.
When do you start? You start?
We're rolling now.
We're on. Okay.
This new wind blowing over Paris with the so-called new wave of designers offered ready-to-wear collections directly without having to prove their worth in haute couture first.
We are always in fashion working for the future, for the coming days, so...
I'm doing Jean-Claude Mugler, Thierry Mugler, Alaïa.
Etiquette was changing too. Unlike couture showings that had previously taken place in private salons, these ready-to-wear fashion shows took place in vast tents, not far away from the new trendy Les Halles district of Paris.
Life is a stage. Theatre is very important, at least for me it is. I've always been involved with theatre. Before I entered fashion, I was a classical dancer. I've also done drama. I've always had contact with the stage, and it's still something very important to me. In dance, you always learn that deportment comes from the way you hold your head and shoulders. A well-constructed body needs shoulders. That's very basic, and it's what I'm working on.
They were so beautiful. They transported us. The clothes were entertaining and well-modeled. Pat Cleveland had incredible presence on the catwalk.
I'll end with an invitation to go dancing at the Palace nightclub, the club to be seen in Paris. No doubt you've heard a lot about it, and even if the idea doesn't tempt you, we'll show you what goes on there.
Every evening, nearly 1,500...
The drugs they did. It was just crazy.
I was a big fan of the Palace, the atmosphere, the mood. I spent whole nights there. I don't go out anymore. I'm much calmer.
But you weren't calm at the time?
No.
What do you mean by not calm?
I went out a lot. I danced a lot.
You danced a lot?
And I took a lot of inspiration from Parisian nights.
From the styles and silhouettes?
From the night. I've always liked working at night. I think that at night you can use all the resources of those that are sleeping. In the collections, there were a lot of things that were inspired by men's clothing. I remember the clothes well.
Tell us about them.
There were very few colors: gray, khaki, dark blue, my favorite color for winter. It was a winter fashion show. I prefer winter with layers of clothing piled on top of each other. I've always imagined an inverted triangle with wide shoulders and a tiny waist. Thierry's shoulders were more angular, whereas mine were more rounded, softer. But originally, they were very, very marked.
I remember the girls coming out with leather coats and caps. We were shot down. People said they looked like Nazis. It's true, it was a little scary. It was very difficult for him to get rid of that image. Every time we did leather, even if it was red, pink, green, or mauve, we were Nazis. But on the other hand, it was a colossal publicity, and even in the most chic and straight-laced boutiques, people bought it. It's absolutely fantastic. France now has an opportunity for change. It's the start of a new era.
When François Mitterrand was elected president of France, a new wind blew over the country. Minorities like homosexuals or second-generation North Africans whose voices had not been heard until now suddenly started demonstrating.
We started out with the impression that all French people were more or less racist. But clearly now we can no longer make that generalization. Kids came up to us. Even a policeman came to us carrying a March for Equality sign. So even the police are with us.
We need solidarity to show that people can get along together without making distinctions, that we're all made of flesh and blood.
Isn't that just a dream?
It might be for a lot of people, but I think it will become a reality for the generation of our grandchildren and those who haven't been born yet.
There were new vibes in the air, and one newcomer was particularly attuned to them. The press nicknamed him the Enfant Terrible of fashion.
You've got the Eiffel Tower, the Pompidou Center, Notre Dame, the Opera, Sacré-Cœur. At least you can tell we're in Paris. So we work in Paris. A real cliché, the perfect postcard. I've got all the postcards.
So you created your fashion house with Francis Manouche. What role did he play exactly?
Francis Manouche was originally my boyfriend. He played a crucial role for me because he believed in me. We started out together, and I created my own fashion house with him, and thanks to him. He would go and meet journalists. He would already rollerblade over to them at the time. He showed them the collections because they hadn't seen the collection. They found him very pleasant, and the next time they came to see what I'd done. So he looked after all that. He looked after the contracts. He loved doing that, and he would say, "We're going to build an empire." An empire didn't mean much to me, but he was excited by the idea. He was very ambitious, but it was rather positive for me. Shit, there's a fly on me. Every item of clothing are basics, really. Classic basics that can be thrown together in a paradoxical fashion. Blending old with modern, surplus trousers with a smoking jacket. That line. Because what I consider important in clothes is freedom. The freedom to play with each item, adapting them in your own style. What's important is the way they're worn and the way they're accessorized. But each style is basically simple. I think humour and beauty are totally compatible. I'd even say that perhaps beauty is humour, and humour is beauty. I've no idea what else to say. I think we should call you another taxi, because it doesn't look like this one's coming. Francis, can you call another taxi?
Sorry?
Can you call another taxi?
It's here already.
It's here.
Yes, a yellow Mercedes.
A yellow Mercedes.
One day, a dress designer was wearing a pleated black dress, like a Coco Chanel dress. So I said to her, "Where did you get that magnificent dress you're wearing?" And she answered, "My dressmaker made it." So I asked, "Where is your dressmaker?" And she said, "On the top floor in an attic room." And that was where I found the man himself making a dress. Shortly after that, he moved to a showroom workshop on the Rue de Bellechasse, and that's where it all began.
Black, yes. Like that. They're suits with blouses, incorporated bodysuits.
Oh, I love that. Oh, it's wonderful.
Are you selling that in America?
The suit, yes, but not the blouse.
Not the blouse, but the suit. I love them like that.
They're body blouses. When you sketch clothes, it's like cheating. The bust is long. The legs are very long, so the proportions are not realistic, and that's why I don't care for designer sketches. I need to work with a real live body, because when the body moves, that changes the way the material falls.
That's not it yet.
I'll do it a different way.
That's it.
Is tomorrow okay for you?
Yes, yes. Tomorrow is absolutely fine. You know, I'm not in any hurry.
She could feel that I was full of admiration for the way she looked, and women feel that automatically when you look at them, for good or for bad. I just melted when I saw her. Your butt looks great.
You think so? What made you start making these clothes?
I don't know.
Marilyn Monroe, perhaps?
I'd have liked to meet her. But there are other beautiful women here. Want to try this? Undress so I can see you. Show me your body.
How much is the Parisienne, Azzedine?
Did she pay for it?
I need the prices. She paid half.
Ask Christophe about the prices. He knows all that. I'm not sure myself. When I arrived in Paris, it already felt familiar, as though I'd been born in Paris. I felt really at home. Because I'd already imagined it like that, through the pictures and photos I'd seen. I didn't think about succeeding or about having a career. I just wanted to learn about fashion, that's all. I was painfully shy, but perhaps I was just lucky with the circumstances. The people I met were wonderful with me. I got off to a very good start.
Dim the lights, this is it. Don't look now, but I think we're a hit.
Such a thrill standing here. All I've lost are my feelings of fear.
Though this night is our first.
At the start of the 80s, the catwalks reflected the freshness, the hedonism, and the carefree atmosphere of the times, with no aesthetic or commercial dampeners. It was one of the rare moments in the history of fashion in which everything seemed so utterly possible.
Where exactly can you wear it? Why do people always ask where you can wear it?
Wherever you want. That's the French mentality.
You should wear clothes because you like them.
Would you wear that around the house?
When I want to look good, I dress up more than that.
It's a luxury product.
Not at all. Fashion is a way of life.
It depends what you're into.
A way of life.
Could you all quiet down a little? These fashion people.
We're trying to be ourselves, to remain true to ourselves.
Hold it a minute.
I smoke, and that's a 500-franc fine.
What did you say, Bernadette?
I smoke. That's 500 francs down the drain.
Je crois qu'on doit traiter la mode autour de deux idées. La première est qu'il s'agit d'un art. On dira art mineur, qui le sait. Le plus souvent, j'observe qu'il s'agit, en raison même de ce qu'elle comporte, d'un art majeur. La création des styles de mode peut être considérée comme l'un des beaux-arts.
He declared that ready to wear was ready to live. He praised the desire to look seductive. It seems to have gone to our designers' heads. So, Claude Montana, you've created a very feminist collection because we've seen your women pilots and also your women Wall Street bankers and women academicians with a charming example here. What made you want to do academician dresses?
Marguerite Yourcenar's induction into the Académie Française.
But Marguerite Yourcenar doesn't exactly have a model's figure.
No, but that's neither here nor there. It's a homage to women.
Also attracted foreign talent from as far afield as Japan with Yohji Yamamoto and Rei Kawakubo, who surprised the fashion world with a more somber and cerebral style.
In the 1980s, people's hairstyles, the way they looked, it was great, so entertaining. But it was really rather crude. There was fashion show after fashion show. People would fight for a place at the fashion show. If someone got an invitation, people would want to go as their guest. Andre Putman was amazing. She'd say, "Come on, I'll get you in." And she would.
In a major new development, fashion shows were becoming veritable media extravaganzas and were even known to provoke riots and fainting. Fashion lovers flocked to the shows as much to be seen as to see. And in ever-increasing numbers, buyers from all over the world fought for front-row seats. Fashion Week had become an institution.
It was a time where people talked about the look. People wore the entire Mugler range or the entire Montana range. It was the era of the entirely shameless total look.
This shameless total look spread to the high streets, not just of Paris, but of the French provinces too, to department stores where women who were gaining increasing financial independence could afford the new clothes. The version that ended up in the shops had often been toned down a little compared to the catwalk version. But what audacity it had preserved, women customers went crazy for.
Mais qu'est-ce qui vous fait marcher?
Moi? Je marche à l'avant-l'air.
And that's the Athens boutique. Is it possible today to be both a designer and a company manager?
I'm living proof of that.
In the style of the Golden Boys of the 1980s, the success these designers encountered turned them into veritable businessmen. Claude Montana managed his teams and perfected his famous total looks from belts to berets. Jean-Paul Gaultier opened his boutique in the Galerie Vivienne under his own name, in fun-fair fashion, to the delight of a throng of brightly colored fans. He would travel to Italy in person to supervise the manufacturing process in his suppliers' factories.
I'd like a finish on it. There's one material, a gabardine, that we've given what we call the washed look finish. It's just washed, not finished. It gives it a sort of shrunken look.
Et en plus, c'est un peu ritratto.
A Mugler suit was like the bodywork of a car, made to exceptional precision. The way it was made was outstanding. He had a factory in Angers that achieved incredible feats.
I'm the only designer of my generation to have his own factories and to organize his own fashion house. It's like steering a ship. Yes, we'll see it again. Nothing's changed. I'm still always chasing rainbows, chasing after dreams, and I've always got several things going at once. Let's just say I'm managing to make more of them come true, and I'm still frantically chasing them, more than ever before.
For his fashion house's 10th birthday, Thierry Mugler transformed his fashion show into a mega spectacle in the newly Parisian inaugurated venue, Le Zénith. 6,000 places, 4,000 of which attendees paid for. For the first time in France, a fashion show was open to the public. At 175 French francs a seat, it was a winner.
Were you already eccentric as a teenager or not?
Very much so. I was very isolated. Rumor has it that people in my hometown would say, "My God, poor Dr. Mugler. It's just awful." People thought I was a simpleton.
His son's not like the others, the shame of the family?
Yes, it was really tragic. It was really bad.
And so in response to all that, you thought, I'm going to succeed. Is it all revenge on your part?
No. I always knew I'd succeed in something, because I suffered a lot. I felt very alone, so I didn't have the choice. I suffered from it. I didn't understand people. I'd get attacked in the street or insulted. People would laugh at me a lot, and I didn't understand why. I suppose I wasn't exactly normal. Do you think it looks nice? Would you wear it?
Yes.
You would wear it. Can you tell me what it is? It's like a pair of trousers, but with a skirt in front.
It looks really nice.
But would you wear it like this? How would you wear it?
No, it's nice like that. Menswear is becoming attractive again, like it used to be.
See? I'll just turn round.
Is it comfortable to walk in?
Take a look. I'm walking totally normally. I can even run. I need some space to run. See, I can even move around like this. It's not a problem. But visually, what do you think? Do you like it?
I like it.
Does a trouser skirt like this look feminine?
No, not really. It looks British.
Jean-Paul Gaultier, 3 minutes 45.
What good do you think you could get out of working with someone?
I think I should...
With his sailor stripe jumper, his peroxide blonde crew cut, and his good humor, Jean-Paul Gaultier became a true media icon. With an increasing number of partnerships with the young scene of the era and his offbeat humorous references, for the public, he embodied a new vision of the fashion designer. He broke down the hierarchies between good and bad taste and between high and low culture, even in menswear.
When I put men on display, I thought, I'm going to display them as men objects, with a certain feminine quality. It was a sexy femininity, but it was all very logical because women's view of men had changed. And men themselves were embracing a new form of freedom. The young generation, at least, not the older ones. I'm about to welcome Claude Montana.
Voilà, Claude Montana.
And delighted to have you here with us. I'd like to ask you first of all, does up and down still exist in fashion, or in and out? Does it still exist?
Perhaps up and down,
but not in and out.
Perhaps less so.
You've got 2 stores in Paris, soon a third, a store in Tokyo, and soon one in the US. When one becomes firmly established in the fashion world, which is your case to say the least, does one become more or less an industrialist?
You know, one's never really fully established in this profession. Every 6 months you have to question yourself. You're not established. I've never been.
And does the industrial side of things not overtake the creative side? Because you cannot ignore the commercial side.
No, because come what may, at the moment, only creativity sells.
regarde jamais, mais...
No.
Well, you're not here and I am, so why don't you wait a moment?
Don't do the toddler right now. We like to have some fun, okay? 5 minutes.
The French designers were now enjoying international success, a success that set off an increasingly invasive media frenzy.
Could you talk to me for just a minute? We're on Hearst ABC TV now. I know you don't like interviews. Okay, 1 minute.
All right, okay.
All right, so let's go. Can you define body conscious and sexy?
Well, just being happy on your own body and to feel good. That's all. That's sexy for me.
In the 60s it was London, in the 70s it was probably New York, and now it's Paris.
With the arrival of this fresh blood, Paris ranked once again as the indisputable capital of style. And fashion had become so fashionable, it was now celebrated cinema style with a prestigious award ceremony, the Fashion Oscars, broadcast live all over the world from the Opera Garnier.
Bonsoir. Good evening, and welcome to...
The Fashion Oscars.
Yves Saint Laurent with Catherine Deneuve.
Ungaro with Anouk Aimée. Givenchy with Audrey Hepburn.
It was the ultimate accolade. That evening, Jean-Paul Gaultier, Azzedine Alaïa, Thierry Mugler, and Claude Montana were all in competition with each other. The new wave was now on equal footing with the old school of French couture. Even movie and pop stars couldn't wait to award them their prizes.
I think it's time now to proceed to awarding the Oscars.
To award the Oscar for the Best Designer of the Year, please welcome Cher.
And the winner is Azzedine Alaïa.
He doesn't want to come up. Bring him up. Azzedine, come on up here.
Oui. Voilà. Voilà.
They were very close to the audience. They weren't wearing too much makeup, and they were beautiful, triumphant, but not dangerous. It was bliss. You immediately thought, I've got to lose 2 or 3 kilos to get into that dress. I'd be so seductive. I'd walk into a place and everyone would look at me and say how pretty, how beautiful I was, what lovely legs I had.
It's much better when a dressmaker knows how to cut. Otherwise, he needs to have premieres, really good premieres, who are equally talented. I've never had a premiere. We're a small team, so I used my own 2 hands. I am the petite main.
From a very young age, he's always done women's bottoms better than the others. He's got that magic. We can finally be aroused, know that it's in good taste and beautiful.
I walk around it. If the seam runs a certain way, I follow the lines of the body. The back has to be a certain way. I try to look at it from all angles. Just like training at the Beaux-Arts, when you learn how to sculpt, they teach you to walk around the sculpture. It's not like a painting. That's why, for fashion, I just do a quick drawing to get my ideas down. But it's not a detailed drawing, or in any way beautiful. Can you move around easily?
How did you meet Grace Jones, Tina Turner, Faye Dunaway, all your most famous clients? Did they just come and see you?
Yes, they just came.
But did somebody send them?
No, they saw the clothes. Tina bought something of mine in Los Angeles once. She didn't even know my name before that. When she came to Paris, she called me and she said she wanted to meet me. It was fantastic.
Could you suddenly stop what you do?
Yes, I know I can stop. That's why I don't want financing or people behind me. Because the day I want to stop, I'll stop. That's why I decided to postpone the date of the show. Too bad if the buyers and journalists don't turn up. If just 4 French journalists come, that's enough. There's no point in turning it into an obsession, into consumerism.
But others did not defy the commercial aspect of fashion. The Italian Gianni Versace started off with the same body-conscious style, but quickly offered an aggressively sexy version, luxurious even, which enabled him to build up a vast commercial empire. In France, too, competition was emerging. The old haute couture fashion houses fought back, in particular Chanel, with a spectacular revival by Karl Lagerfeld. The ensuing return to couture even spawned a new fashion house, Christian Lacroix. The fashion world started to lose its nonchalance and became increasingly competitive. For designers like Montana, the pressure was on.
Someone needs to check everything that needs ironing, and the ironer's not even there. Where is he? I want to know where he is.
The press is in a hurry.
What? I don't believe it. I don't believe it.
I don't know where he is.
Where's the ironer?
That's enough.
There he is.
What the hell are you doing? You should be ironing. What the hell are you up to? What's wrong with you?
I went to the toilet.
Right, for 30 minutes?
Everyone's leaving.
They have to be inspired, make clothes people want to wear, sell themselves as celebrities, and at the same time have a business-like attitude. They can't really have a private life, as they're too taken up with their work. So they probably do need a pick-me-up or a stimulant.
Could you stand there, please? I really didn't want to have to look at you in profile.
Okay, we're filming. Hello, Thierry Mugler.
Hello.
With the staging for this particular interview, and your staging in general in your fashion shows and other work, one gets the feeling that you're now turning to directing. Is fashion no longer enough for you?
Well, first of all, I'm not sure what staging you're referring to, because if you call this staging, we only did a few minutes of it. There was nothing. It could have been much worse. I think we are superhumans on a daily basis, operating in this world. We're superhumans every day of our lives, always having to act bigger, always having to fight. Yes, I really like the idea of superhumans. Superwoman's good too. I can take things further. It's an open door onto bigger stagings. Pure mise-en-scène.
Mugler, the superhuman, endeavored to surpass the limits of fashion. With the aim of becoming a total god, he started off with photography, placing his creations alongside monumental works.
They're very staged photos. It produces an image. I make images.
Don't you think that in the 1980s we went a bit far with worshipping fashion? Didn't we put designers on a bit too much of a pedestal? Because, after all, fashion is just for clothing people.
I agree with you to an extent. We did really worship it. But it's also given us a great deal. It's given us awards and competitions.
There's now a sort of fashion. Don't you think we're scraping the barrel?
I think there's no longer a fashion of fashion. I think at the moment we're in a trough.
The hedonism of the 1980s came to a sudden end with the AIDS epidemic, which wreaked havoc among the ranks of the fashion world. In December 1990, Francis Menuge, Jean-Paul Gaultier's partner and co-founder of their fashion house, passed away. The party atmosphere was over. As a response, the new Japanese and Belgian minimalist waves made the exhilarating exuberance of the golden 80s seem old. Having surfed on the wave of success, the designers of the 1980s now faced a new, much tougher challenge: survive or bow out.
Now wearing Gaultier, looking fantastic, sounding incredible, Madonna.
Jean-Paul is really a very discreet guy. He hardly talked about it at all, in fact. He never talked about it. It was a violent event for him, almost unsurmountable. And then he finally managed to get over it, thanks to his phenomenal life force. He worked with Madonna at the time of Francis' death, so I think that gave him a new impetus. And he attacked his life and his work again with even more gusto than before.
And that musical, I love that beat.
C'est que ça que c'est ça, regardez. Vous êtes vraiment dégueulasse. Esprit, es-tu là?
Mais tu pars ton comportement.
Il est là. Je le sens. Jean-Paul Gaultier. Parfois, Jean-Paul Gaultier.
Jean-Paul Gaultier bounced back with a successful incursion into new territory. First in perfume, using sexual ambivalence, a house signature, as a marketing ploy. It worked with countless perfumes, both for men and women. Then, totally unexpectedly, the enfant terrible ready-to-wear even turned to haute couture. He approached it with his usual humor by inventing the concept of couture for men. Thanks to this haute couture, he managed to sustain his fashion house by reaching a certain classicism in women's wear. From now on, Jean-Paul Gaultier was synonymous with Parisian couture.
These are my heirs. Patapouf is unique, and he's my heir. Everyone expects something from Patapouf.
Let's talk about money in fashion.
Well, if you've got any to give me.
The fashion world is linked to the business world. Is that something you're concerned with?
I really work only from instinct. I don't know if I'm concerned with it. I work to get out of debt. I'm obliged to get into debt with the banks, apparently beyond my own capacity to reimburse them. The greater the debt I have, the better I feel and the more I can work. Otherwise, if I don't have debts, I don't work. I stop and go off someplace and live off a few tomatoes and some olive oil, and I live in peace. But for now, I have to pay those debts. I've got a lot of them.
Now, this boutique for a start.
You can say that again.
Even though it meant getting into debt, Alaïa was quick to buy himself a 4,000 square meter palatial venue right in the center of Paris on the Rue de Moussy. Here, he grouped together his private apartments, his workshop, his boutique, and even his press shows, for which the most expensive top models like Naomi Campbell and Linda Evangelista agreed to charge him a special rate and stay at the master's disposal for 3 days and nights. Alaïa continued to distance himself proudly from the rules of the fashion world. He refused, for example, to kowtow to the Fashion Week schedule and only let models slip on his clothes when he felt ready. Inevitably, this independent attitude backfired on him.
There was a time, as always in that sort of profession, when everyone dropped him. Everyone was saying he was finished, his clothes were finished, and he suffered terribly from that. He was all alone in this immense space, and things were going very, very badly for him because he refused to sell up. Through pride, his well-known ego, which keeps those people going all the same, because without an ego,
but his withdrawal ended up paying dividends, as it freed Alaïa of the concern of whether to remain in fashion or not. The pieces he continues doggedly to perfect in his bastion on the Rue de Moussy have become secrets of a guru whom an enlightened clientele fight over. The niche market he holds, somewhere between ready-to-wear and haute couture, has raised his clothes definitively to the rank of classics. In hindsight, the show was like the joyful funeral of his fashion house, and it closed the door on the extravagance of the 1980s with panache. But before he bowed out, Thierry Mugler succeeded in hitting the jackpot with perfumes, in particular with the scent Angel, launched in 1992, which met with great success all over the world, guaranteeing him financial independence. He also designed an haute couture line that was free from the concerns of attracting a clientele, and was guided solely by the excesses of his imagination. He then started to apply his musings on anatomy to working on his own body, which resulted in a spectacular transformation.
He's really someone that goes to extremes. I think the work he's carried out on his body today is more or less linked to the work he was doing with his women's wear and men's wear.
And being a character that defies norms, you just can't put an age on him. He's not just your average guy that had cosmetic surgery. He's completely rebuilt.
I refuse to be filmed for this interview. I'm against not controlling my image. What does he want? And then you break down and become completely natural. You put the three heads next to each other.
If you were sitting next to an American in a plane and he asked you what your profession was, what would you say?
Movies and show business director.
Meaning?
A maker of images and a maker of dreams.
It seems to come so easily to you.
Yes. You can't see the effort that goes into it. It looks wonderful. Whereas in reality, it requires an iron hand and you're living in permanent torture.
Today we should call you Manfred, is that right?
Yes, that's my name.
So why were you called Thierry at one point then?
Because I wanted to make a label out of it. And I didn't want to be a living label.
So when you see a Thierry Mugler label on a shirt, that's not you. It's nothing to do with you.
No, nothing to do with me. It's a shirt with a label.
Claude Montana is probably the one who least protected himself, who went all out in his... to the brink of beyond.
Claude Montana started the 1990s on a high note in haute couture with Lanvin and was unanimously awarded 2 golden thimbles by the profession.
I think the real luxury in couture is simplicity. When you're lucky enough to work with outstanding materials and to work with people who have such remarkable technique, rather than add things on, you simplify everything.
But following his final hour of glory began a long, slippery slope. peppered with personal tragedies such as the death of his muse and wife, Wallace Franken, and with disappointments in his professional life at a time when he was trying to focus once again on his fashion house.
It's a complicated profession, especially when you've been doing it for quite a while. Even if you think you're used to it, after all these years, it always sets you shaking again.
Unlike Gaultier's and Mugler's perfume sales, Montana's were disappointing, and his clothes started selling less well too. From reorganization to successive takeovers, he lost authority within his own fashion house. He ended up taking bows at the end of Montana's shows for which he had not even designed the clothes.
Hurry up, they're waiting in the dark.
It's very important to have people around you who can guide you when you're designing. When you're designing, you always ask someone else's opinion. You don't really do it all alone. You can't help being nostalgic, but nostalgia doesn't get you very far.
I'd say to a young designer, you are what I was yesterday, and tomorrow you'll be what I am today. I think that's what fashion's all about, really. It goes out of fashion. It happens to us all. So at one point you've got out of fashion and you have to learn to accept that and then carry on. My clients are growing older, I'm growing older. Let's grow old together.